Well, this next guy, Corey, really doesn't need much of an introduction, but I'll tell you what, he's got a great story, and I'm really excited. We had the long game yesterday, and you don't understand, as ball players, how difficult it is to kind of do stuff on the side, because we're gone on road trips a lot, and we're just gone. And then when we come home, our kids have commitments. They want to see us, so his son had an 8 o'clock baseball game, so we went and saw Matthew play at 8 this morning as much as he could. So he's come down here to share his love of Christ, and then at 12, he's going to go see his son play a second game, and then he'll be playing. So these guys coming down here and the coaching staff, it's a great commitment for these guys. But I'm going to let the rest go to Corey because his story is a really true story and how he came to know the Lord. So, Corey, up to you, buddy.
Hey guys, you guys hear me? Is it on? Yep. Ah, it's on. Nice. Kind of like Luke. Well, actually, nothing like Luke. I grew up in Kentucky. It's the Bible Belt, and it's kind of embarrassing. But the only time I ever went to church was if I wanted to go to a skiing trip, or if I wanted to play church basketball, you had to go to the church to sign up. So that was basically my commitment to the Lord growing up, which is embarrassing. But throughout my whole life, I had so many signs of God in my life that, I just kind of put it aside. My best friend died. I met my wife 3 weeks later. It's a rough time, but, one of the best things that ever happened to me happened right away. So you find things that touch you and help you reach out. I don't know if you guys know what garnishing is. You guys know what garnishing is? Me and my wife we just get married, playing in AAA. My check started getting garnished. So I'm making $300 every 2 weeks with a baby already, married, living in the ghetto, which was nice. And so I started getting my checks garnished. I'm calling my parents, I'm calling my agent. I'm like, I don't know what to do. We can't afford this. Do I got to quit? 2 weeks later, I get called up to the big leagues. So I was up here for maybe 8 days, but I get back down. My checks start getting a little better, and I was able to make it through it. And then I ended up getting up here the following year. But, that's, for me, that's the sign of the Lord, and I just kind of brushed it aside that wasn't the reason. And then, I started to have more kids, which I have a lot of kids. But that's, like I said, Mark said, that's kind of the reason I came to the Lord, is because I grew up knowing that God was there, and it's kind of the right way to go, but, I had other intentions and other things that I like to do that didn't help that. So we've always put my kids in Christian preschools, Christian schools, and my oldest daughter, she's almost 11 now, but from kindergarten through I guess second grade, she'd always come up to me ask me questions about the Bible, ask me questions about certain verses, and helping her with homework. And it's a big punch in the face if you don't know how to help your second grader with homework, because it's not hard homework. And But it was. I mean, she's asking me all these questions, and I'm like, I have no idea what's going on. She asked me about, hey, John, what's John 3:30 or John 3:16? Pretty famous verses, and I'm like, what are you talking about? Who's John? So it was, it's like, gosh, then Daddy, we need to go to a field trip, but you have to go to church. I'm like, I don't want to go to church. And then so all these things start happening. I start feeling pretty guilty about myself, and then I'm like, you know what? I owe it to my daughter to go to church. So I go to church, and I walk in, and from day one, my life's changed, because the whole message was directed towards me. I felt like I was in the stands, and he's talking to me, which I don't know if that happens to everybody, but from then on, me and the pastor are great friends. I talk to him almost daily, and that changed me from that point. But I had so much more after that, because I still wasn't sold. I felt like, I'm doing the right thing. I'm going to church, but I'm not committed. I'm not sure what's going on. Then I ended up getting hurt that season, or in spring training. I missed, I guess, all spring. And then I come in, I start struggling. I'm like, what's going on? I've never, followed Christ at all. I've never read the Bible. I started doing this, and I'm struggling. So, you ask God for a lot of stuff, and He never's going to help you right away. It's usually, when it comes to it, it's when you really need a sign of that He's real, that He actually comes out. Because I could pray a lot and pray the wrong things, and wanted help and never got it. But that's not what he's for. He wants to show you that he's godly and that he'll come at his time. So I'm sitting there in May struggling. It's my wife's grandfather's birthday, and I'm sitting there. I talked to him. He's had a rough 5 years. He got real bad Parkinson's disease. So he's like, have a good game. I'm like, hopefully. I hadn't hit any home runs. I was probably hitting 210 with 2 RBIs. End of May. So I'm like, Lord, just show me I'm doing the right thing. Never followed you before. I'm following you now. I'm at my wits end. Because nothing changes. I'm gonna go back to my old ways because I can't handle this. And I go out and hit 3 home runs. It was one of those things that you can't feel it, but it's there. It's one of those things that totally changes your life. And my life's been dramatically better. I got Marcus, T-Bone, Jerry, Johnny, these guys that lift you up. Wayne's been instrumental to me. It's one of those things that he got to see the back of my hand for a lot of years, because every time I saw him, I was embarrassed, so I kind of shielded my face because, you know what's right and what's wrong. And it kind of eventually kind of caught up to me. And I think him and Marcus have been huge, and it's been a big help for our family. And so it's nice to talk to you guys, but it's kind of emotional because your life changes.
Well, like I said earlier, when a guy is being transparent up here on the stage, you can see that something is really transformed in his life. From a guy who used to be into all kinds of sin into a guy who is leading a life that is honoring the Lord, and being a guy who is building up his family. And it is truly a pleasure and a joy. I mean, this guy isn't complaining about nothing when things are going bad. He's always smiling, and it's like, whatever. Corey, it is just an honor and privilege to be able to be up here to see your growth, and it is a wake-up call for us, because sometimes we can get kind of take things for granted and kind of just assume things that are happening, and we can kind of forget what it means, man, when the Lord changed our life. And man, I don't know, for those who are saved, man, when we first come to know Christ, man, we want to do anything, we'll run through anything to do it for Him. But after a while, we sometimes get content. I don't know why that happens, but we do. But when you hear the stories again, the testimonies, it kind of brings back, man, that fire that was within. And to see the brokenness even through Corey's here and through his tears of joy, man, it should fire us up to know there is something better than just playing baseball and to do these things of wickedness. Man, there's a King and a Lord that we serve and we get to honor. And man, that's who we should be living and playing for. And that's where our joy comes from. So those are tears of joy, because he knows the difference it's made in his life and in his marriage and to be a dad. So, man, Corey, man, I just want to lift this guy up. Here's one thing I want to say about Corey, how like the real deal. I have a charity called Coups for Kids. This is not about that. But he goes like, you know what? We got to do some kind of event to like really kick this thing off, And so Corey comes up with this idea. I know the season, because our time gets committed to do things, gets kind of hard. He goes, let's do something in the off season. So what's this man do? He says, I don't care. Let's spearhead this thing. So I'm going to speak on your behalf here, Corey. Corey fronted this thing, so along with some other members here in this church. But November 17th, we are going to have an outreach. We're going to bring other Major League Baseball players from around the league and some coaches in. And we're going to do a round table, a little different than this, but very similar. And it's going to be at Grace, but it's going to be followed up by Jeremy Camp. So all those who are into music know who Jeremy Camp is. Mr. Corey Hart here has fronted a huge part of this, because his mission is to share his heart like he did today and tell people about Jesus. And Jeremy Camp's his first Christian act that he really fell in love with. And so he's going to use his resources to share Christ through music and through testimonies of other guys. So that's going to be in November. He's coming back to Racine. And all you guys know, in Racine in November is really ugly. So someone to come up here then, man, that takes a lot, especially to be leaving Racine, leaving Arizona. So we can really be praying for this guy that he continues to be a man of God, that he lifts up his family, and that he's a life changer within the clubhouse, because a clubhouse is a dark place. And to be a man as big as he is, it's something that you can be a difference maker. So, Corey, man, we thank you for your transparency. We thank you for what you're doing. And hey, how about these little kids right here? What are some of the books that you're reading right now that you love to read?
Well, right now I'm reading the Left Behind books, the series. There's 12 of them. I think I'm on 5. But, there's actually a kid version. It's for like teenagers and stuff. It's a very eye-opening book. The whole series it's obviously one of my favorite books now because I'm locked into it. But, just read anything that can uplift you. That can bring the Lord out in you. Anything that kind of makes you ask questions, I think is a good book.
Well, as you can see, he's got a little ink on himself, and this is a kind of a cool story. In spring training last year, our chaplain down, Brian Beltramo, has these words, 7 words. It's a T-shirt. It says 7 words, 3:30, and it says, "I must decrease, he must increase." I probably said that backwards, but we get the gist, right? Well, we're in a Bible study on Wednesday, and he loved that verse so much. So Sunday morning, we're talking about that verse. And he ended up getting it tattooed across his chest. So it was a reminder of what he needs to be doing. So I'm just telling you, this guy's sold out. Be excited that you guys have guys on this baseball team who love Jesus. And the one thing is what Corey had talked about. Man, just because you're following Christ doesn't mean like we're going to be all in the riches and everything's going to be perfect. I just kind of brought us to Houston. Brings me to what the chaplain there and Kevin said. He goes, our decisions will impact us later on and others. And what he had talked about was Abraham at 75 years old. Like he was told he was going to have a son and that he was going to have descendants, all his descendants, as many as the stars. And man, it wasn't until he was 100 till all this came. So they had to wait 25 more years. And man, how many of us are still waiting for God? And most of the time it's not, as Jerry's great text today, which is really cool. I should actually have Jerry finish this up. But what was the finish of your text today?
A lot of times we think we're waiting on God, but God is really waiting on us to give ourselves to Him.
So this is the wisdom that we get every day, which is really cool. So we even talk about texts and stuff like that all the time. So it's a great conversational piece. If you guys can encourage even others through phone calls or whatever, man, it is awesome. So Corey, thank you for your transparency. Man, we love you, and we're going to be praying for you. So excited to, be your buddy and brother in Christ. So, man, the banquet table is going to be awesome, man. I'm going to tell you that.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, Corey's going to take off. He's got to watch his son. So, hey, thanks, Corey. Appreciate it, buddy.